Final part of Dukevember, Donovan's Reef, 1963. John Wayne and his friends, they're Navy veterans during World War II. Their ship got wrecked and they got stranded on a French Polynesian island that happened to be occupied by the Japanese. After the war was over, they just couldn't leave the island, so as they were discharged, they all decided to live on the island, with the exception of Lee Marvin, who kind of travels abroad, with the exception of he has to be on the island of Haleakala on December 7th. Why? Because his character and John Wayne's character, Donovan, share the same birthday on December 7th. Kind of an ironic birthday for two Navy men. And they have a tradition, the annual birthday brawl. They just get into a fight, knockdown, drag out fight on their birthday to the point where when Gelhuli, played by Lee Marvin, gets to the island, everyone's following him, waiting for the fight. John Wayne owns a saloon, and there's other friend is a doctor who has three kids he had on the island. He had kids by the last hereditary princess on the island, and she died during the war. Anyway, well, not during, it's complicated, that whole thing. I don't get the timeline of it, but he did have kids by Princess Monolane, who's dead. And anyway, it's got great comedic elements. John Wayne and Lee Marvin are actually a great comedic team. Like, I love when Lee Marvin gets to the bar. He's just helps himself to a drink, grabs coin, starts playing the broken slot machine. And the chief of police, I guess that's what his rank equivalent is, he's there. And he's just waiting for the fight himself. And he's like, where does Donovan keep his clothes? And in the back, same place as usual. And then he walks up, grabs a cigar out of the pocket of the police officer. I'll help myself, the lug owes me one. It's my birthday afterwards. And the officer goes, pick out a nice black one! One you can be buried in! So John Wayne shows up and they get into their annual birthday brawl, which goes into this courtyard-like area. John Wayne has an aquatic garden and they both wind up in the aquatic garden. And when the doctor gets there, John Wayne's holding Lee Marvin's head under the water. They're very funny together in this. Anyway, the doctor, it turns out he has another daughter. The backstory is, you find out later, she was born while he was on active service. He got less and less letters, and it turned out she was sick, and the family never told her he died. He just thought he wasn't needed anymore, and the people of that island desperately needed a doctor, so he decided to stay on the island where he felt needed and wanted. The daughter, she comes from a wealthy Boston family, and they have a shipping company because the parents were never divorced. He technically stands to inherit the shipping company. Now, there's a clause in the will that if he's acted immoral, that he forfeits his stock in the company. So she goes to find this out and confront the father that wasn't there for her life. Meanwhile, John Wayne's playing interference to watch out for his friend. He pretends the doc's kids are his. And we get some nice moments. I'll say my biggest problem with it, although they act good together, the one playing Amelia Denham and John Wayne, I don't buy a romantic chemistry between their two characters at all. It just feels forced and unnatural. That being said, I still really enjoy this movie. It's got a lot of good comedic moments in it. Like there's an ongoing joke with the priest that he's always being over the years he's been given money for the roof to fix the roof of the chapel because it's leaking, and he keeps giving money to the poor. Cesar Romero is also in this. He's the governor of the island who's constantly wanting a transfer, to the delight of his Chinese assistant who can't stand him and preferably wants him transferred as far away as possible to even Miami Beach. Well, Cesar Romero, he wants to be with this girl because of how rich she is, and he appoints his assistant. Now, this guy, again, he's comedically great himself because there's the broken slot machine in the saloon. The Chinese people on the island keep playing it, and he has signs in different languages out of order. And he's like, Miss Dedham, that thing was shipped here broken. It's still broken. And he's like, I don't understand why they keep playing it. And the assistant, I'll explain it to them in their barbarian tongue. And he flips the sign and starts yelling at them in Chinese, and it's a hilarious scene. Also, it's set during Christmas time, which is why I picked this movie for the last one, because right after Thanksgiving, the Christmas season really kicks in, so it seemed appropriate. And I gotta talk about the Christmas service, and again, the humor in it and just the delivery. Cesar Romero's reading, and he's like, and 3 kings appeared bearing gifts, and he's like, he goes to read it, and there's a twist to the story. The king of Polynesia, and it's one of the Polynesian guys. He's got some traditional Polynesian stuff, and that's the gift. The Emperor of China, and it's his assistant, again, traditional Chinese garb with some Chinese gifts. And then his best reaction is when we see Lee Marvin, the King of United States of America, and Lee Marvin's in a robe, and he's got the phonograph from the saloon, and that's his gift. And as they start singing the final song, the rain opens up and everyone gets drenched. Lee Marvin worst of all, because it's done in such a way. Did you ever see where there's a runoff in a roof and just it's a steady stream of water pouring down? Lee Marvin was right under that steady stream of water. Then we get to Christmas Day, and I'm going all over with the plot. I'm just giving you some highlights. There's some Australian Navy men on the island. Well, Lee Marvin says something that triggers a fight, and John Wayne's trying to calm it down, so he calls his cousin. So the Australian guy calls his brother. Hey, we're in the interest of being sporting, brother. Turn your hat around. You are now a Yank. And before he gets to finish saying, his brother punches him in the face, and the fight goes off, and John Wayne's like, guys, knock it out. Peace on earth, goodwill towards, gets punched in the face. That'll get you a fat lip. And it's another great, just funny scene. We also get a nice, really touching scene when Amelia meets her father and he explains what happened and how he's needed on the island, and she sees how important his position is there. She's just in complete adoration of her father, and she has the utmost respect for him. And he even tells her, I don't want the shipping company. I'm needed here. You can have it. And at this point, she actually, like, you deserve it, Dad. So it's a touching scene. Eventually, also, why that fight was going on, the priest comes in and he thinks the slot machine is a jukebox. There's a scene where Lee Marvin gets knocked into it, 3 coins fall out. And I love the way Lee Marvin pulls the jukebox. He just so overacts, puts the coin in an exaggerated pull. He wastes the 3 coins. Well, the priest, jute a box, puts the coin in, pulls it down, and he gets the jackpot and all the coins. So he finally commits to fixing the roof of the chapel. And poor Lee Marvin's been pouring coins into that thing for years, hoping he would win. Well, Donovan's Reef, solid movie. Although, because, like I said, I don't buy the romantic chemistry between these two, and that's an important part of the movie, it bumps it down to a B+, but I highly recommend it still. I hope, after reviewing these 4, if you're not familiar with John Wayne, at the very least, I hope I inspired you to check one of these out and just give it a chance. They're 4 very solid, very fun movies, and I'm going to do this again next November, Dukevember 2, so don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Over and out, and stay tuned for my Lord of the Rings trilogy marathon.